My dear sisters and brothers, how many nights have you laid awake with a heart heavy from waiting? How many times have you whispered a dua and wondered if it was heard? I want you to pause with me for a moment and breathe, because the very fact that your heart is still turning toward Allah is not a sign of abandonment, it is a sign of love. Allah does not place hope in a heart that He intends to disappoint. Sometimes we think miracles only come in dramatic moments, the sea splitting, the storm stopping, the impossible becoming possible overnight. But I want to gently remind you, Allah's miracles often arrive quietly, wrapped in patience, hidden inside delays, disguised within moments we almost gave up. What you call nothing is happening may actually be Allah arranging everything in ways your eyes cannot yet see. So if your heart is tired today, if your dua feels heavy on your tongue, if you are standing at the edge of giving up, don't you dare lose hope now. Because the one who brought ease to prophets in their darkest hours, the one who turns the unseen into reality, the one who hears the whisper before it leaves your lips, He is still the same Allah, and your miracle may be closer than your next breath. Trusting Allah's timing is one of the most delicate and deeply spiritual journeys a believer can walk. It sounds simple when we say it, and it rolls easily off the tongue in moments of comfort, but it becomes profoundly challenging when the heart is waiting, when the dua seems to linger in the air without visible response, and when life feels paused in a chapter we did not choose. Yet it is precisely in these quiet, stretching moments that the believer is invited into a deeper relationship with Allah, a relationship built not on immediate results, but on certainty in His wisdom. Every one of us knows what it feels like to wait. We wait for healing, for rizq, for marriage, for children, for relief from a burden that feels heavier than we expected to carry. And during that waiting, a subtle whisper sometimes enters the heart. Why is it taking so long? Did I do something wrong? Has my dua been accepted? These thoughts are not signs of weak faith. They are signs of a human heart learning to surrender. But what transforms this waiting from painful uncertainty into peaceful trust is understanding who Allah is. Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise. Not wise in the limited way we understand wisdom, but perfectly, completely, and infinitely wise. When we ask for something, we see only the surface of our need. We see the immediate relief it would bring, the happiness it would create, the comfort it would give. But Allah sees the entire timeline of our lives. He sees what this blessing would do to our heart 5 years from now, 10 years from now. He sees the people we have not yet met, the tests we have not yet faced, the growth we have not yet experienced. And sometimes, in His mercy, He delays not to deprive us, but to prepare us. There is a beautiful difference between denial and delay, and many of us confuse the two. When Allah delays something, it is often because He is arranging pieces behind the scenes that we cannot yet see. Think about the way a seed grows beneath the soil. From the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. Days pass, weeks pass. The ground looks the same, but underneath, roots are stretching, strengthening, anchoring themselves deep into the earth. If the plant were to emerge too early, without those hidden roots, the first strong wind would destroy it. What looks like stillness is often intense preparation. Your life is not on pause. Your dua is not floating unanswered. Your Rabb is not unaware. Allah is working in ways that are subtle, precise, and perfectly timed. Sometimes He is strengthening your heart so that when the blessing arrives, you can carry it without it carrying you. Sometimes He is removing something harmful from your path that you cannot see. Sometimes He is teaching your soul a kind of reliance that only develops in the school of waiting. And let us be honest, waiting humbles us. It gently breaks the illusion that we are in control. It reminds us that we are servants, and He is the master of timing. This humility, though uncomfortable, is one of the greatest gifts hidden inside delay. Because when the blessing finally comes, the heart that waited is softer, more grateful, more aware of Allah than it would have been if everything had arrived instantly. Many times, we look back on our lives and realize with quiet awe that if Allah had given us exactly what we asked for at the moment we asked for it, we might have been overwhelmed, distracted, or even harmed by it. There were moments when we thought something was perfect for us, only to later see the wisdom in its postponement. But the challenge is that clarity usually comes in hindsight, while trust must be exercised in the unseen present. This is why tawakkul, true reliance on Allah, is not passive. It is an active state of the heart. It means you make your dua sincerely. You take the halal steps available to you. You strive, you plan, you work, but your heart remains gently anchored in the understanding that the outcome and the timing belong to Allah alone. Tawakkul is waking up each day and doing your part while your soul whispers, "Ya Rab, I trust your timing more than my urgency." The believer who learns this secret begins to experience a different kind of peace, not the peace of having everything resolved, but the peace of knowing that the one in charge is perfectly merciful. This peace does not remove the human longing. You may still want, still hope, still make dua with tears, but beneath all of that is a quiet steadiness that says, "My Allah knows, my Allah sees, my Allah is never late." And sometimes what we call delay is actually divine protection. There are doors we begged Allah to open that, had they opened at that time, would have led us into spaces that were not care for our dunya or our akhirah. There are relationships we thought we needed that Allah gently held back from us. There are opportunities we felt we missed that were in reality mercies in disguise. But because we see life through the narrow window of the present moment, we often label as late what Allah has perfectly scheduled. Trusting Allah's timing also requires us to soften our definition of what a miracle looks like. We often imagine miracles as sudden, dramatic transformations. But many of Allah's most profound miracles unfold slowly, a hardened heart becoming soft again, a person who once felt distant from Allah finding their way back to sujood, a situation that seemed permanently broken gradually healing piece by piece. These are quiet miracles, but they are no less powerful. If you are in a season of waiting right now, know that your sabr is not being wasted. Every moment you choose hope over despair, every time you make dua, even when your voice feels tired, every time you resist the urge to give up on Allah's mercy, all of it is being recorded with precision and care. Allah sees the tears you do not show people. He knows the weight you carry silently. He hears the dua you whisper even when you think it feels weak. Sometimes Allah delays because He loves to hear your voice calling upon Him. Not in a way that causes harm, but in a way that draws you closer to Him than immediate ease ever could. There is an intimacy in long dua, in repeated turning back, in that quiet moment of the night when it is just you and your Rabb. Many believers later realize that the period of waiting, though painful, was the time they felt closest to Allah. So when your heart begins to feel restless about timing, gently remind it, Allah is never careless with my affairs. What is written for me will not miss me. What misses me was never meant for me. And what Allah is preparing beneath the surface is more precise than anything I could arrange on my own. Even now, things may be unfolding in your life that you do not yet recognize as mercy. A delay that is building strength inside you. A closed door that is redirecting your steps. A quiet season that is reconnecting your heart to Allah in ways that business never allowed. These are not empty spaces in your story. They are carefully written lines in a plan that is still unfolding. And perhaps the most calming truth to hold on to is this: Allah's timing has never failed anyone who truly trusted Him. Not the prophets, not the righteous, not the sincere hearts who waited with sabr wrapped in dua. Their journeys were not always easy, and the waiting was sometimes long, but the outcome, in ways seen or unseen, was always care. So breathe a little softer with that knowledge. Your timeline is not broken. Your dua has not been ignored. Your Rabb is not distant. What feels slow to you is moving with perfect precision in the unseen, and every delay carries within it a preparation your heart may one day look back on with deep, quiet gratitude. Never losing hope in sincere dua is one of the most beautiful and tender acts of worship a believer can hold on to. It is easy to make dua when the heart feels light and the path ahead seems clear, but the true depth of faith appears when the dua has been repeated many times, when the eyes have filled with tears more than once, and when the answer has not yet arrived in the form we expected. It is in these quiet, stretching moments that the believer is invited to understand something profound about the nature of calling upon Allah. Dua is not simply a request sent upward waiting for a yes or no. It is an intimate conversation between the servant and the Creator. It is a moment when the heart turns fully toward the one who already knows every fear, every hope, every unspoken ache. When you raise your hands, You are not informing Allah of something new. You are responding to His invitation because the one who commanded you to make dua already intended to listen. Many of us, without realizing it, begin to measure the value of our dua by the speed of visible results. If the situation changes quickly, we feel reassured. If the answer seems delayed, the heart sometimes grows heavy, and the whisper of doubt quietly enters. Maybe my dua is not being accepted. Maybe I am not worthy. Maybe I should stop asking. But these thoughts misunderstand the generosity and mercy of Allah. Allah is as Sami, the one who hears every sound, every whisper, every movement of the heart. Not a single sincere dua disappears into silence. Not one tear shed in private goes unnoticed. The acceptance of dua does not always appear in the form we imagine, and this is where the believer's trust becomes both delicate and powerful. Sometimes Allah answers by giving exactly what was asked for, and the heart feels immediate relief. Sometimes He answers by delaying, because the timing of the blessing is still being prepared. Sometimes He answers by redirecting the person towards something better, even if the heart cannot immediately recognize the care in that redirection. And sometimes, in His immense mercy, He stores the reward of that dua for the akhirah, where its value will be far greater than anything we could have received in this dunya. The one who understands this begins to approach dua differently. Instead of making dua with quiet desperation mixed with doubt, the believer makes dua with calm certainty that every call is heard and every sincere turning is valued. The outcome belongs to Allah, but the act of asking is itself an honored form of worship. There is also a hidden sweetness in persistent dua that many people only discover after long periods of waiting. When you repeatedly turn to Allah about the same matter, something begins to soften inside the heart. The relationship with Allah becomes more personal, more intimate, more real. You begin to speak to Him not only in moments of crisis, but in moments of reflection. The distance between formal worship and heartfelt conversation begins to disappear. Sometimes the delay in dua is not about the situation changing, it is about the heart changing. Allah, in His gentleness, may be drawing you closer to Him through the very thing you are asking relief from. There are believers who later look back and realize that the season of unanswered dua was the time they developed their deepest connection with Allah. The pain was real, the waiting was heavy, but the curb they experienced was something they would not trade. Never losing hope also requires protecting the heart from quiet despair. Shaitan does not always try to stop the believer from making dua completely. Sometimes he simply tries to make the dua feel pointless. He whispers that nothing is changing, that the effort is useless, that maybe this matter is beyond hope. But these whispers crumble the moment the believer remembers who Allah is. Allah responds to the call of the one who calls upon Him. Not sometimes, not occasionally. Always in the way that carries the most wisdom and mercy for that servant's life. When this certainty settles into the heart, dua stops feeling like a desperate plea thrown into the unknown, and begins to feel like a calm return to the one who is already near. It is also important to remember that sincerity in dua is not measured by the perfection of words. Some of the most beloved dua are the simplest ones, the quiet, warab, whispered in exhaustion, the tearful moment in sujud when words fail, the soft plea made while walking alone. Allah looks at the state of the heart far more than the eloquence of the tongue. If your dua feels repetitive, do not worry. If you have asked for the same thing many times, do not feel embarrassed before Allah. Repetition in dua is not a sign of weak faith, it is often a sign of deep reliance. The believer returns again and again because they know there is no door more generous than the door of Allah. And sometimes, what keeps hope alive in dua is remembering the countless moments Allah has already answered us in the past, in ways we noticed and in ways we did not. There were difficulties that eased, there were fears that never came true, there were doors that opened at just the right time. When the heart reflects on its own history with Allah, it begins to trust more deeply in His ongoing care. Hope in dua does not mean pretending the waiting is easy. Islam does not ask you to silence your human emotions. You are allowed to feel the ache of waiting. You are allowed to cry in your sujud. Even the prophets experienced moments of deep longing. But what faith gently teaches is that beneath the waves of emotion, the anchor of certainty in Allah must remain firm. If today your dua feels heavy on your tongue, if you have been asking for something for a long time, if your heart is quietly tired, know that the act of continuing to ask is itself beloved to Allah. Every sincere call is recorded. Every hopeful return is honored. Every moment you resist despair and choose to turn back to Allah instead, that is a victory of the heart. Sometimes the answer to your dua is already moving toward you in ways you cannot yet see. Sometimes Allah is aligning people, circumstances, and moments with precision beyond human imagination. What feels like stillness may actually be divine movement happening just beyond the limits of your sight. So keep your hands raised even if they tremble. Keep your heart soft even if it feels bruised by waiting. Keep your hope alive even if the timeline is unclear. Because the one you are calling upon is not distant, not unaware, not slow. He is near in a way that no human support could ever be, and he responds with a wisdom that reaches far beyond what the eyes can immediately understand.